Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you from the strife-torn Ukrainian capital Kyiv. I'm Gaurav Savant. We bring you this broadcast indoors because an air raid siren has just gone off and we've all been told to rush inside the building. Now the temperature in Kyiv at this point of time is -1 degrees, but these air raid sirens and the tension has sent tempers and the temperature soaring extremely high. What has also set tempers and temperatures extremely high is the Russian President Vladimir Putin saying that the nuclear deterrence force has been put on alert. What is the significance of this statement? Why is the Russian president saying this? And at this point of time, 96 hours into the Russian offensive in Ukraine, that remains the big question. Is this because Russia hasn't been able to achieve any of its strategic aims? Is that the real motive for this? What we can also tell you at this point of time is that Putin ordered his defense chiefs to put the country's nuclear deterrence force on high alert. Russia militarily is far superior to Ukraine, but is Russia at this point of time frustrated by the strong stance taken by the Ukrainians? They haven't been able to capture Kyiv even after 4 days. NATO nations are also said to be sending additional weapons and ammunition to Ukraine to repel the Russian offensive. Russia is facing numerous sanctions from across the globe. Russia, of course, has the capability to launch nuclear weapons from air, land and sea. Russia, for example, has an intercontinental ballistic missile, the Topol-M. This Topol-M can cover a distance of 11,000 kilometers. Its submarine-launched missile, Bulava, can cover a distance of 8,000 kilometers. This is, of course, a slightly older version. In a televised address, President Putin accused the West of taking an unfriendly stance against Russia. President Putin had earlier warned foreign countries not to interfere in this offensive against Ukraine, saying the consequences will be grave, consequences that they haven't seen ever.
Уважаемые коллеги, вы видите, что западные страны предпринимают не только недружественные действия в отношении нашей страны в экономической сфере, я имею в виду нелегитимные санкции, о которых все хорошо знают, но высшие должностные лица ведущих стран НАТО допускают и агрессивные высказывания в адрес нашей страны. Поэтому приказываю министру обороны и начальнику генерального штаба перевести силы сдерживания российской армии в особый режим несения боевого дежурства.
People are fleeing Kyiv in large numbers. There is apprehension that tonight there could be an offensive. In fact, the apprehension is either tonight or the next 24 hours are likely to be extremely critical. And of course, this comes at a time when there are negotiations that are going to take place at the Belarus border. There's a team from Ukraine that has traveled to the Belarus border. There's a team from Belarus that is coming for these talks. Will there be an offensive? Just a short while back, there was an air raid siren which prompted everyone to be sent indoors. But through the day today, artillery pounding and missile pounding of Ukraine continued from multiple flanks. It's a seesaw battle in some parts, especially in the east. If we were to talk about Kharkiv, especially in the afternoon, it was claimed that Russian forces were in control of the second largest city in Ukraine. Majority Russian-speaking people in eastern Ukraine. Initially, it was said Russia in control of Kharkiv. But later in the evening, the governor of Kharkiv said that Kharkiv had been cleansed of all Russian presence. There is a lot of information, misinformation and disinformation, including information that's circulating on social media that seems to indicate a large number of Russian tanks and armored personnel carriers were destroyed and Russian soldiers either killed or taken prisoners. We bring you a ground report.
Mind-numbing images of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. As fighting rages on, the full wrath of the war breaking on the beleaguered country. Capital Kyiv, surrounded by Russian troops, woke up to sounds of gunshot and explosions triggered by Russian forces. India Today crew was stopped by Ukrainian armed forces while covering the war-ravaged city.
यहाँ पर कर्फ्यू है, हम लोग फिर भी सड़कों पर हैं, तो उन्होंने हमारे ऊपर हथियार तान के रखा है। हमसे थोड़ा पास है, वो कह रहे हैं हाथ उठाकर, तो हाथ उठाकर हम धीरे धीरे आगे जा रहे हैं। मेरे हाथ
Heavy shellings and Russians firing rocket arsenal led to a massive breakout of fire at a petroleum depot in Vasil Kyiv, about 40 kilometers from the national capital. The sky was engulfed with the thick black smoke after the explosion, and officials issued advisory to locals to remain indoor and keep windows shut. A radioactive waste disposal site near the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv was also targeted by Russia through an airstrike. However, no radiation leakage was reported immediately.
This is how the city center looks right now. Totally empty streets, totally empty road. This is the center of the city, center of Kyiv. Hardly anybody around, no vehicles, no people. So this is totally, it's like a war zone now. A bustling city, a metropolis coming to a halt, totally empty, like a deserted city right now.
Russian forces targeted a 9-story residential building in Bucha. This resulted in massive damage to the property. It is unclear if the attack led to any casualties. Russian forces blew up a gas pipeline in Kharkiv, the country's second-largest city, leading to massive blaze and plumes of smoke taking over the skyline. Large-scale street war also broke out. Ukrainian troops and Russian forces fought pitched battle in Donetsk. Intense shelling led to damage to several houses and injury to civilians. Intense fighting broke out after large columns of Russian armored vehicles stormed the northern city of Sumy. Civilians were asked by the authorities to remain indoors and stay away from windows. With Gaurav Sawant and Rajesh Pawar in Ukraine, Bureau Report, India Today.
And on this special broadcast from Kiev in Ukraine, we get you a special ground report from Kharkiv. This is the second biggest city in the east. And we bring you this report where you will see pitched battles on ground zero. Initially, it was claimed that Russia had taken control. Later, the governor insisted that Russians had been removed from Kharkiv. Does this also indicate that there is a flaw either in Russian planning or execution of those plans, that the teeth went in, captured Kharkiv, but the logistic support and reinforcements did not fetch up? And was that the reason that the soldiers who went and took Kharkiv could not take control and remain in control of the city? And is it exactly the same that happened at the Ostomel airfield 10 kilometers outside Kiev, where the Russian special forces took over the biggest airport in terms of the military airbase where Antonov aircraft are manufactured? Special forces came, they took control, but did reinforcements not fetch up that the Ukrainians said they had once again taken control of the airfield? This has now happened twice. We bring you this report from Kharkiv.
Ukraine's second largest city. Witnessing full force of war, destruction and havoc. As invading Russian troops forced their way in with artillery units, tanks, gunfire rented the air, with loud explosions as shells landed all over. Citizens picked up weapons in the city, which is located about 20 kilometers south of Russian border. closest target for the Russian troops compared to any other city in Ukraine. Devastating blasts were reported in gas pipelines as Russian army targeted the energy supplies, choking off fuel to the local population. Massive fire raged for hours as the pipelines exploded after being struck. Heavy Russian tanks and armored vehicles took over the streets. Fighting pitched battle with Ukrainian troops aided by civilian population. Videos of smashed Russian tanks went viral on social media in the ferocious counter. Several of the invaders' military equipment also suffered heavy damages. The latest round of fighting came after missiles and bombs rained down on the besieged city in a night of heavy bombardment. With the world abandoning them, can outgunned and outmanned Ukrainians hold back the Russian army for long? Bureau Report, India Today.
People in Ukraine are now warning Russia about urban warfare, about pitched battles in every lane, every bylane and every street corner, and people are preparing for this. So one picture that went viral was of the Ukrainian president, Vladimir Zelensky, wearing a combat helmet, bulletproof jacket, out in the trenches with the soldiers, saying, "I'm not fleeing this country." Several members of parliament, they picked up an assault rifle, saying they'll defend Ukraine till their last breath. A former Miss Ukraine picked up an assault rifle, saying this is the time for every citizen to protect the country. Earlier, I spoke to a musician, a combat veteran. He's come back to Ukraine. He wants to now forget strumming guitars. He says the time for music is over. The time now is to pick up an assault rifle. India Today's contributor Rajesh Pawar also spoke to one such group of militiamen. Otherwise, in the public relations department, now he's picked up the gun to defend his country. We bring you this report.
Civilians in Kyiv's territorial defense center putting up their last stand. Youngsters, techies and even teens arming themselves, donning combat fatigue, ready to battle the invading force. Telling India Today with boyish enthusiasm that they are ready and raring.
Slava Ukraine! Slava Ukraine! Yes, they are ready to fight. You see there, he's a young guy. He probably is very, very young. He's probably 17, 18, but they're all ready to fight for their country.
Amid air raids, missile attacks and tanks firing shell, the common Ukrainian is resisting hard.
Olga, are you also ready to fight for Ukraine?
Yes, I'm ready to help to fight. At least I can sort out the medicine.
Alex, what is your profession normally?
I'm working in public relations.
And right now, you see, he's holding a real Kalashnikov, a public relations officer, because his country needs it.
If I won't make it, no one make it. So I'm here to protect my wife, my family, myself, my country from the Russian invasion.
I'm an IT guy. Actually, I'm not a military guy, but I also have the gun, and all of my friends, they come to government, and government take them to the militia and give guns. So we will fight for our land, and we will kill all Russians.
It is not often that the world sees civilians in full combat gear. But the war has come home to one of the most populous and thriving European cities. Sparking a full-fledged urban warfare bordering in guerrilla tactics by residents, many of whom are heading home from overseas to join the war.
I want to join the army. I want to fight. I want to live on my earth, in my Ukraine. And I don't want to die our soldiers, our Ukrainian soldiers. They are very brave. And we all the Ukrainians, women, pray for them.
Russia knows the pitfalls. Hence, it is sending its troops disguised as Ukrainian soldiers to crush the resistance. But many of them have been nabbed. The urban warfare now threatens to prolong the war and make it even bloodier. With Rajesh Pawar in Kyiv, Bureau Report, India Today.
One of the most horrifying videos of the Russian offensive in Ukraine has been that of a tank going on top of a car, and it has horrified people almost across the world. Here is a car that's fleeing the battle, and a tank crosses a divider, gets on top of that car and then reverses. Tankmen across the world are saying this is not what is done in a battle where honorable men fight. Will action be taken against that tankman remains to be seen, but I bring you this report that has actually shocked and stunned the world.
Perhaps the most viral image of Russia's invasion. A hair-raising video of a mighty armored vehicle pulverizing a civilian car on a deserted Ukraine street, crushing it completely. Mangled metal, nearly nothing left. The armored vehicle swerves along this road, crushing the car along with its driver, with no apparent provocation. Filmed by locals from a nearby high-rise, the person filming can be heard gasping in horror and wailing in fear in the background as the chilling incident is recorded. While it took a miracle for the elderly driver to survive, locals had to struggle hard to extricate him from the wreckage. Ramming and pulling the car doors that got jammed to bring out the aged driver, who looked remarkably calm. The video has instantly gone on to become one of the biggest talking points across the world. Instantly hardening millions of people's stance against Russian aggression, turning the perception of the war on its head, resulting in a groundswell of support and sympathy for Ukraine fighting a behemoth of a superpower. The video of naked aggression against a defenseless civilian has garnered sympathy and support for the nation, showing Russian troops as active perpetrators of war crimes and the implementers of Putin's ruthless will, giving credence to Kyiv's claims that a superpower is resorting to genocide bids and doesn't care about civilians. Will the video prove to be a turning point in Putin's invasion of Ukraine? Bureau Report, India Today.
The situation in Ukrainian capital Kyiv and almost across the country remains extremely grim, extremely tense. People are leaving Kyiv in large numbers. The next 24 to 48 hours remain extremely precarious, and we will be tracking the story very closely from ground zero. But that is all cameraman Pawan Kumar and I have for you on this special broadcast from Kyiv. Many thanks for watching. For all the latest news and updates, continue to watch India Today.